Hi, I'm Ali Jackson-Jolley. I'm here with Y-Vonne Hutchinson. She is the CEO of ReadySet and her new platform, Super Essence, both of which are aimed at helping corporations create more inclusive, supported workforces. In this capacity, she has worked with the likes of Google, Amazon, and Salesforce. Y-Vonne, welcome and thanks for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so as we head into 2025 with newly elected President Trump,
Mhm.
the president elect has been very vocal in his plan to wage war on DEI departments across the federal government.
Yeah,
I'm curious, how do you think this will impact corporate DEI?
thinking ahead to what's going to happen with Trump and DEI, I get asked this all the time. And I think, we have to be realistic about it as much as companies are going to do whatever is in their power to discourage organizations from having DEI programs, discourage the use of the language around DEI, communicate that they're focusing on things like reverse discrimination, and directing their federal agencies to do the same. But the question really is like, what does this mean in practice? And I think so often we get caught up in the language of DEI, and in some ways that's intentional, right? So when we talk about anti DEI policies, anti woke policies, a lot of times we're all talking about different things, right? And so in some ways that's intentional because that creates this chilling effect where anything that has to do with opportunity, fairness, et cetera, can get swept in under that rug and targeted. So I think that that is a risk, but that's also an opportunity. So to get to my point, we know that Trump is going to target DEI. The question becomes, what does it mean for businesses, and how do businesses maintain their priorities in the wake of the sort of changing political climate? And I think at the end of the day, whether or not you choose to use the DEI language, which I think more and more it's just really loaded, organizations are still going to be looking to hire, to retain good talent, to have fair systems that create opportunity, systems that don't discriminate, systems that reward good performance. That has to happen regardless of who's in power or who's not. And that's just internally. When we talk about culture, and this is what we're looking at with Super Essence, we look at those internal factors, but externally, when it comes to their consumers, their customers, their target markets, and creating good inclusive experiences there as well, that's going to continue to be a priority too. So I think the impact of the political targeting of DEI programs, the sort of politics of grievance, the theater that we've seen over the past few years, I mean, I feel in some ways like it's in reaching its breaking point. And what I mean by that is just that organizational needs don't change. Regardless of what's happening on the political stage, they don't change. And organizations, if they want to make money, if they want to conserve costs, they're going to have to invest in these areas.
So speaking of politics and
Yeah,
specifically identity politics,
yeah.
many have said that President elect's President elect Trump's win was, a lot about a referendum on identity politics.
Hmm.
Even before this election, though, you spoke about DEI being the new boogeyman,
Hmm.
where it has sort of become the bad guy for everything gone wrong in society. Could you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, I think so. It goes back to the kind of vague language point that I made earlier, that the idea that DEI is this boogeyman, this ill-defined sort of specter that's responsible for everything that's going wrong in society and for everyone who does not deserve to be in the position that they have, right? So we blame DEI on Boeing's engineering and management failures, even though DEI has nothing to do with that, and they have pretty homogenous management team. Unfortunately, we blame DEI for bridge collapses, internet outages, and the failures of the Secret Service during Trump's assassination attempt. This is why I say it's a PR campaign, right? Because there's nothing really behind that. The message is DEI is bad, DEI is bad, DEI is bad, DEI is responsible for everything that's wrong. And there's no real specification of what DEI is or why that is the case. And I think once you kind of scratch the surface, this is where it falls apart. And I want to just quickly say, most Americans support DEI, right? Like there was a Washington poll that put support at 60% of Americans for DEI. So the fact that it's not broadly supported, number one, is in itself a myth. Number two, that number goes up when you define what it is, right? When you stop using just whatever niche term of the day it is, loaded term of the day it is, like DEI, and you start talking about, well, do you believe in fair hiring practices? Do you believe in fighting discrimination? Do you think that people should learn about bias at work? I think I would just make one, additional point here as it relates to the work we do, specifically at Super Essence, is a company that tries to drill down on these questions of data. We're not a DEI company. We're an engagement and sentiment platform focused on understanding employee experience and, to a lesser extent, customer experience. And we do so really thinking about these specific aspects of the data that relate to the way a company operates and how it affects their people. Again, this is why I keep emphasizing the specificity piece, because I feel like we're getting lost in the language, in the propaganda, in the sort of vagueness of it all, and really kind of undermining our businesses as a result. And at Super Essence, we're really sort of trying to refocus on the data, on these specific aspects of operations, to give people a very clear idea very quickly of where they can improve their cultures, where they can improve their company experience, and the ability to truly be responsive in a time that really calls for it.
Yeah. So, speaking about inflection points, we talked about President-elect becoming the president in 2025. Another inflection point, obviously, is around what we're seeing in technology and AI. And I know that you have in the past spoken a lot about why now more than ever the tech industry needs to be intentional about DEI.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about why you think it's even more important now than ever before?
Yeah. I think that the tech industry needs to be intentional about a few things. And you'll notice that I'm pushing back on that DEI language because I want to make sure that we're being specific. And that we understand what's happening in terms of our current climate and what the needs are. Technology is powerful. The technology we build is powerful, and I know that technology's changed our lives. Just the fact that we're having this interview, across the country from each other, would not have been possible a few years ago. And, embedded in those changes are the cultures of the companies that build the technology. And those cultures also influence how that technology interacts with its customers. So I think, to answer your question, there are a few reasons why now it's more important than ever. The first is that I think we are living in a time with greater inequality. Inequality is accelerating, it's not decreasing. And I think the technology, the tech sector is still a very powerful economic engine. And I think it's really important that, to the extent we can, we leverage that engine to provide everybody, with equal opportunity, right? With access to this vibrant part of the economy. And I think that even though we're seeing some contraction, I think that vibrancy is still going to continue. I think that innovation is going to continue to be what drives the economy. So that's the first piece. The second piece is that I think technology organizations, but workplaces in general, more and more in this environment of instability, flux, uncertainty, are going to find that people are looking to them for certainty, right? And in the business, we're not quite used to creating it. In some parts, it's kind of embedded into what we do, but being really proactive around providing good experiences for our people, our employees, providing good experiences for our customers is going to continue and become more and more, I think, a competitive advantage. You see what's happening with Blue Sky right now. Blue Sky's not coming out of the gate waving some DEI banner, but Blue Sky is saying, like, embedded in our ethos is, having a good experience. And I think that is the direction that organizations are headed. I think that that's what people are looking for from their employers. That's what consumers, users are looking for on their platforms. I mean, I think that, from a technology perspective, users want a good experience. They don't want to feel held hostage by the platforms they use anymore. They're demanding it. And, competition is high. So I think that, that's yet another reason for organizations to prioritize, diversity, inclusion, if you want to call it that, but good culture, good experience. I think that that's going to be increasingly important over time. And again, creating that amazing experience really is going to, especially for the tech industry, continue to be, a priority. And I always take it back to Super Essence because it's what I'm absolutely obsessed with right now. But it's the idea of how do we understand these unique dimensions of experience, and how do we enable ourselves to really act on it? Right now our tools of measurement are broken. Surveys are biased. They take a long time to deploy, a long time to analyze. We're seeing more and more tools like polls are decreasing in their reliability. So knowing that there's this huge data set of information out there about how people feel, how do we leverage technology? How do we harness the power of AI to really understand what people are saying and apply it to the kind of environments that we can build for them, the kind of cultures we want to develop, the kind of experience that we want them to have? And that's what we're doing.
Well, yeah, well, great. So, Y-Vonne, thank you so much for being here with us. Now we're out of time, but I really appreciate you, and I would welcome you back anytime to do it again.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. And I'll just say, as we close, it's really easy to get caught up, I think, in what has been fundamentally a pushback. For some of us, it feels like the pushback on our very nature, our very identities, and our rights to have what other people have. And while that is upsetting, I don't think that it's the end of the road. I think that at the end of the day, organizations still have to function. And in order to function, we have to be responsive to the needs of people. People are our greatest assets. And those people are diverse. They have divergent interests. They have different needs for support, and they want good experiences. And so that's what I'm focused on providing. No matter who's in power, no matter what trends we're seeing, that I think is always going to be central to doing business. So I just want to end on that point, because I do think that there's some bright spots here and some lessons that we can learn.